You know that feeling when you've spent an entire evening thinking about how you really need to sort your life out? Proper sleep, better eating, maybe finally doing something about that idea you've had for 3 years. And then you look up and it's 10:30. You're still on the sofa, there's a biscuit wrapper on your chest you have no memory of opening, and you've achieved absolutely nothing except watching a documentary about someone else's interesting life. Yeah, that one. Right, so my name's John. I'm a dad. 2 boys, both young enough that they still think I'm reasonably competent, which is a window I'm aware is closing. I make these videos because I want my sons to understand certain things earlier than I did. Not because I've got it all figured out, more because I've spent enough years getting it wrong that I've developed what you might call a working knowledge of the mistakes. This isn't judgment. It genuinely isn't. It's more like standing at the bottom of a hole I dug for myself, looking up, thinking, I really wish someone had mentioned the shovel was in my own hands the whole time. So, ambitious but lazy. 2 words that probably shouldn't go together, and yet, here we are. Because here's the thing. In my experience, and I'd put decent money on this being true for a lot of men, the problem is almost never a lack of wanting. Most men I know want more, a better body, more financial stability, more discipline, a calmer mind, more respect from themselves, if we're being honest about it. The wanting is not the issue. The wanting is, if anything, in excellent shape. It's the doing. That's where it all goes a bit quiet. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one Sunday afternoon. Kids were upstairs, cup of tea going cold in front of me, and I had this notebook open. I was planning, big, satisfying planning, writing down goals, drawing little arrows between things, feeling genuinely productive. 45 minutes of very organised thinking, and then I closed the notebook, put it in the drawer, and didn't open it again for about 4 months. But in the moment, felt like progress. And that is, I think, the exact centre of the problem. The planning feels like doing. The imagining feels like moving. You think about the better version of your life with enough vividness that some part of your brain logs it as a step taken. And then the evening arrives, and comfort is right there, warm, immediate, asking nothing of you, and the actual effort is somewhere else, asking quite a lot. Comfort is not the villain here, by the way. I want to be clear about that. Being comfortable is not a character flaw. Tiredness is real. Life is genuinely busy. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that every man lying on his sofa at 9 in the evening is simply weak. Sometimes you're on the sofa because you've been up since 6, done a full day, picked up the kids, cooked something, tidied something, and your body is simply asking for a temporary ceasefire. That is fine. But, and this is where it gets uncomfortable, there is a version of that which is different, where the sofa isn't recovery, where it's avoidance, where it's the 15th evening in a row that ended exactly the same way, with the same vague guilt and the same quiet promise that tomorrow will be the day something actually changes. And I know that one. I know it well. The thing about being ambitious but lazy, and I'm going to say that phrase gently because I think it describes a lot of good men going through something real, is that it creates this specific kind of misery. Because you are not someone without dreams. You can see the life you want quite clearly. You could probably describe it in reasonable detail. But your daily actions are not building toward it. And somewhere in the background, very quietly, that gap is doing damage. Because you stop trusting yourself. Not dramatically, not all at once. It's more like you say you're going to do something, and then you don't. And then you say it again, and then you don't again. And gradually, without any single moment you can point to, you become someone who says things but doesn't follow through, even to yourself, especially to yourself. And that is a very uncomfortable person to be. I think about the gym bag. I genuinely cannot tell you how long I had that gym bag in the boot of the car. Bought it with real intention. January, because of course it was January. Navy blue, quite good quality. Little separate compartment for shoes. I was very pleased with it. It sat in the boot until April, still in the plastic wrapping, subtly judging me every single time I opened the boot to get the shopping out. I used to close the boot a little faster when I noticed it, which, it turns out, is not a fitness strategy. So why does this happen? Because it's worth actually understanding it rather than just feeling bad about it. Part of it is that effort has a delayed return. You go for a run, you don't feel brilliant immediately. You eat well for a week, nothing visible happens. You start saving 20 quid a month and your life looks identical. The reward is real, but it's somewhere in the future. And the sofa, by contrast, is offering you something right now. Your brain, which is trying to be efficient and not make your life difficult, does the maths and picks the immediate thing. Every time. Until you consciously override it. And then there's the identity problem, which is a sneaky one. Some men quite like being someone with potential, someone who's going to do something. There's a version of ambition that is genuinely just an identity. I'm the kind of person who has big plans. And it provides a certain comfort all by itself, without requiring any actual movement. You can live inside that identity for years. You can have very interesting conversations about your plans. You can feel like someone who is on the verge of something, and none of it produces a single useful outcome. Fear lives in there too. Starting something means finding out what you're actually capable of, and that's terrifying in a way people don't always admit. Because while you haven't started, you still have the best possible version of what might happen. The moment you actually try, that ceiling arrives. So not starting is, in a strange way, keeping hope alive. Badly, expensively, but alive. Perfectionism is the same thing in a smarter disguise. If the conditions aren't quite right, if I haven't got the whole plan sorted, if I don't have the right equipment, or the right moment, or the right level of motivation, then I'll wait. And the waiting is dressed up as standards. But really, it's just the same avoidance in a nicer coat. The cost of this, and this is the part I think about most, is time. Not just the wasted hours, the wasted years. When you're young, the years feel recoverable. There's always more runway. You'll sort it out. By midlife, and I say this as someone who is very much in it, you start to feel the weight of all those postponed starts. You look at where you are, and you can see, quite clearly, the shape of all the decisions you kept not making. I'm not saying this to be bleak. I'm saying it because it's true, and because I think young men deserve to hear the honest version while there's still plenty of time to do something about it. Right, so what actually helps? Not motivation, that's the first thing. Waiting to feel motivated is roughly as useful as waiting to feel like doing the washing up. You can wait, it's technically possible, but mostly you're just waiting. What actually helps is making the action so small it becomes almost impossible to argue with. Not, I'm going to get fit. Something so specific and modest it barely counts. 10 minutes of walking, 1 page of something, 1 phone call you've been avoiding. The goal is not to change your life tonight. The goal is to be someone who actually did the thing, even briefly, even badly, even when they couldn't really be bothered. Because here's what that does. It builds a small piece of evidence. Not proof that you're impressive, proof that you're reliable. And reliability, being able to look at yourself at the end of a week and see that you actually did what you said you'd do, that is what self-respect is actually built from. Not results, actions. Pick one thing, something specific. Make it embarrassingly achievable. Do it every day. Not perfectly, there is no perfectly. Just do it more days than not. And when you miss one, don't restart from scratch, just continue. The continuing is the whole point. And here's the other thing that actually helps. Make the good habit slightly easier to access and the bad one slightly harder. Want to read more and scroll less? Leave the book on the pillow. Leave the phone on the other side of the room. Not forever, just far enough that the effort shifts slightly. That gap between wanting to do something and actually doing it is often about 2 minutes. Remove 2 minutes of friction and you'd be surprised what starts to happen. What I want for my boys. And I know they won't watch this for years, and that's fine. These things have a way of arriving when they're needed. What I want for them is not to waste their 20s being capable of things they never quite got round to. Not to arrive at 40 having spent the best of their energy imagining a life rather than building one. Because the life worth having isn't some enormous achievement. It's not 6 figures and a six-pack and a perfect morning routine. It's just becoming someone you can trust. Someone who says they'll do a thing and does it. Someone whose daily actions, even on tired Tuesdays, are roughly pointed toward the life they actually want. That's it. That's the whole game. It turns out the bar is a lot lower than the inspirational posters make it look. You just have to actually clear it. So, back to where we started. You, on the sofa, biscuit wrapper, thinking about how it's all going to be different. You're not broken. You're not doomed. You don't need a transformation or a revelation or a better set of circumstances. You just need to stop counting what you want as progress. The life you're after is not going to be built in your head. It's going to be built in the small, slightly inconvenient things you do on the evenings you really couldn't be bothered. Start tomorrow. Actually, no, start tonight. 10 minutes, something small, something real. That's all it takes to become someone different.